There are 4 typical errors that Vietnamese people make with the k and the t sounds when speaking English. First, people don't say the k and t sounds strong enough at the beginning of words and at the beginning of stressed syllables. This is a smaller error, and it usually causes problems when the t and k is followed by the r or l sound, such as in try, cross, or class. We will deal with this issue in another lesson about R blends and L blends. The second and much bigger problem is that Vietnamese people often say a s sound instead of a t or k sound at the end of words, and sometimes in the middle of words as well. So they will say yes instead of yet, rice instead of right, guess instead of get, completes instead of complete, and completely instead of completely. The best examples of this error are the expressions it is and that is, which a lot of Vietnamese people pronounce as isi instead of it is, and that's instead of that is. There is a variation of this mistake when people say a z sound instead of a d and g at the end of words. So they will say guz instead of good, knees instead of need, and says instead of said. Saying a s or z sound instead of a t or a d sound at the end of words confuses foreigners a lot, because in regular verbs, a final t or d sound signifies the past tense, while a s or z sound indicates the present tense. So many times we can only guess if our Vietnamese speaking partner is talking about the past or the present. The third problem is that very often the different ways of spelling the k sound cause difficulties, and Vietnamese people don't know how to say words where the k is spelled in unusual ways, such as a qu in quiet, ch in character, or che in ache, all of which are possible ways to spell the k sound. Finally, the fourth problem is not really an error, but simply the result of not being familiar with the fact that depending on the position of the t sound in the word, the t in American English can be also pronounced as a d sound. And if you want to speak English with a true American accent, you should master the correct pronunciation of the t sound. In this video, we will learn how to say the t and the k sounds well. We will learn when to say a d sound instead of the t sound. We will examine how we typically spell words with the k sound. We will practice saying words and sentences with the t, d, k, and g sounds. And we will test your newly acquired skills. So, let's correct these mistakes and start speaking accurate English. Are you with me? Let's go!